I'm also Brittany. It's my laptop because my laptop is slow. So, but that said, I'm Liam and one of our new NSAC reps for Region H. Hopefully John hops on here in a second. I know he was having some tech issues this morning, but we're just gonna have a nice chill kind of roundtable discussion, get some ideas out there, some of the challenges we've had, some of the successes we've had over the past year. So I guess we can just kick it off with, introductions, like your name, I guess like what chapter you're from. I guess like since it's a chapter officer roundtable, what your position is, or I guess what you want to have. I know elections are coming up for a lot of chapters, so maybe some people hopping on, are like, oh, I want to go for this position. I'm checking it out. So I'm Liam from Zeta Lambda at U Toledo, and I am our VP of Service, and of course I'm on NSAC. So we'll popcorn it off. Anyone else can hop in.
Do you want me to go real quick? Okay, my name's Adam Tipp, and I'm from the Alpha Eta Rho chapter here in Lancaster, Ohio. I'm the current president, the president-elect for the next school year, former vice president of membership, and pledged back in fall of 2019. So ever since I pledged, I've been quite busy. So thank y'all for having me.
I'll go next. I'm Kirsten Timko. I'm from Zeta Lambda at U Toledo. I'm currently alumni secretary and I pledged last semester.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kachi Ujogu. I'm from the Alpha Iota chapter at Ohio State. I pledged in the spring of 2019. Then I was on JRC, starting with my NIB semester. I was the vice chair of JRC. Currently, I am the surgeon at arms at our chapter, and I'm the president-elect. So very exciting. Nice to meet you all.
All right, I'll go next. My name is Jack Golden, and I'm from the Alpha Eta Rho chapter in Ohio University in Lancaster, and I'm currently the VP of Fellowship and the treasurer for our chapter.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Cheyenne. I'm the VP of Membership and Standards at Alpha Gamma Phi at NKU.
Hi, I'm Priya. I'm from the Alpha Iota chapter at OSU. I'm not actually an officer. I kind of just came out of curiosity. But yeah, I pledged last semester. So thanks for letting me listen.
Sorry, you can. Okay. I'm Jacqueline from the Alpha Gamma chapter at Purdue, and I was just elected as a pledge trainer for the fall, and I was also VP of Leadership last semester, and I pledged spring of 2019. Yep.
I'm Christina. I pledged fall of 2019. Yes. And I am currently the VP of Service and Parliamentarian for Alpha Gamma Phi at Northern Kentucky University.
Hi, I'm Josh. I am the VP Com at Purdue University. I pledged spring 2020. Yeah.
All right, amazing. Did we miss anyone? Oh, yes, okay. And Nina said in the chat from alumni from OU, pledged 2014, and she's their advisory chair. So Christina is the people in the waiting room. Let them in. There we go. So Christina, we were just doing the introductions, finishing up of name, chapter, and then like position.
Good morning. I'm Christina. I'm from Wright State University's petitioning group, and I'm the president.
Amazing, amazing. Well, it's so exciting to have you here. I'm definitely impartial to pledges from 2019. That was my pledge class, so y'all are great. And of course, parliamentarians, because we love a good sergeant at arms and parliamentarian. I was also that for 8 years. But we love everyone. We love everyone. Everyone is great. Everyone is important. So we can kind of take this where people want. We really don't have a defined set of order. Obviously, it's a roundtable, so kind of as things flow. But I know the last year, as we discussed, if anybody was in the room before this with Connor about transitioning, the past year's kind of been COVID, and how do we, do chapter well in COVID? How do we, get pledges to come in? How do we, keep people excited coming out to service events, fellowship events, and getting their leadership points and everything? It's kind of been the theme of this whole weekend. So I guess, did anyone have any specific challenges that they saw come, or that they figured out how to digress around, or anything in the past year or so with all of the COVID things and restrictions changing and everything?
One thing I wasn't involved in making this happen, but we've in the last few weeks been able to shift to having both an in-person and online option for meetings. And I've been really impressed with how smoothly that's gone, and having Zoom stuff projected on the screen while everyone's there in person, and just it's worked out well for us. It hasn't seemed to be a problem with being able to communicate between both means. So if anyone's been questioning trying that, it has worked for us the last few weeks.
Alpha Iota has also incorporated a lot of hybrid type programming options in it. They've been working really well. Definitely a lot more this semester than in the fall, but we've had some BLBs in person, Brothers Leading Brothers events, and I think even some of our service events we can have an online version, as well as the in-person outdoors spread out version. And I think the members have really liked it and enjoyed it a lot. From when I've met up with people and been able to attend events in person, you can just tell that people have missed that connection in the sense of community and camaraderie. And I'm just really excited to, hopefully offer more of these in the future.
Yeah, for sure. We love transitioning back the hybrid stage between fully virtual and hopefully, in the fall or next spring, fully in person. This can be some kind of awkward sometimes. So I'm glad they're going well for both of your chapters. Did anyone help? Talking is hard today. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to add in that area? All right. I know another thing that's been a huge thing for chapters this past year, and a lot of chapters are sure trying to figure out, how do we work around it? How do we do it? Is of course Zoom fatigue and burnout, the word that everyone knows so well for the for the past year, whether it's APO, school, whatever else you have. So what are some chapters then to deal with that Zoom fatigue, or is that something that we're all still struggling with?
I feel like a lot of times on Zoom, it could feel like there's just one person talking at you instead of participation and collaboration. And I think that one thing that AGP has really tried to do is to make sure that everybody feels included in the event, even if it's a hybrid event. And, people on Zoom might feel like, oh, they're in the room and I'm just on Zoom. So it's balancing that, as well as just trying to like incorporate new and fun little activities that you can do over Zoom, I think is something that could be improved on. And it's just a good idea to try to incorporate. So it's not like, you know, oh, I'm just sitting at my computer, but I'm actively engaging and doing something.
Yeah,
I feel
Chris,
like the biggest thing about okay. The biggest thing about Zoom really isn't like what it is, but what it's not. And it's not in-person stuff, like where you're actually getting the joy and satisfaction of doing things.
one thing I'll definitely not miss from Zoom is how it's almost impossible to not interrupt people. It's always so awkward. It's been a year now, no one's really gotten a hang of it, but hopefully we won't have to worry about it too much. But Christina, what you said kind of reminded me of what we do. At most of our chapters, around like every other chapter, right at the start, we have like chapter games, and we usually use those to incorporate like our families. So we'll like put everyone in breakout rooms. Sometimes it could just be like Kahoot, or I don't remember, I think it was like categories. And this is actually my first time playing categories. So we put it in like, you know, according to families, and it just like in the main Zoom, most people, like a solid, like maybe 85% of our chapter turn their cameras off. But in the room, like for the family, like most people had their cameras on, and it was like a nice time to like actually like talk during everyone like talk during chapter. And it was really nice. With as far as Zoom fatigue goes, we fully allow brothers to leave their cameras off, because we already understand like you're staring at a screen all day long, you just want to turn it off. And even if like chapter is playing in the background and you're listening, but we also encourage people putting like the reactions just to like, you know, show that you're engaged in things. And I think it's really nice to see that too.
I'm gonna have to agree with Christina how sometimes when you're in chapter, it feels like people are just doing like the report. There's no collaboration. I definitely miss that from being in person. But one way that we've tried to help with this and get more involvement is to do LFS chapters just randomly on there. And so we'll have our normal business, and then we'll be like, okay, so we're gonna play a game, you know, we're gonna do Kahoot after because this is a fellowship chapter, or we're gonna, you know, go to Zooniverse for a service event right after. And it kind of gets you to be able to talk to people more. And yeah, other than just us giving our reports.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm also from Kachi's chapter. And I think that's something else that like we didn't intentionally do, but happens during our chapter meetings is while the officers are, or while the e-board's giving their announcements, and it's like just people talking. Our Zoom chat is still very active. Like people are reacting to everything that they say. They're either making jokes or like hyping somebody up, and it's really sweet to see. It doesn't like take away from the actual announcements too much. Like we're still all paying attention, but it keeps everyone involved and it keeps it entertaining. So that's something fun.
A couple of little things that we've done like during our pledge meetings, that John's one of our PTs this semester, so he's incorporated this, but they have like music playing before the meeting starts, and like as people are coming on, it kind of just breaks the silence, like gets people to talk about the music, like a lot of throwback songs and stuff. And that makes it feel like a little bit more of like a homey space, I guess. And then also like when you are having like group discussions or anything, like stopping sharing your screen so that you can actually see everyone's faces and you're not just looking at the slides while everyone's talking, is also like just an easy way to just create a little bit more of an engaging environment.
Another thing I like to do at the beginning of chapter, we have two traditions in our chapter, and the first one is that you share your highs and lows for the week at the beginning of chapter, and then at the end we have our shout outs. But I also like to include in my little section of the report, when we're doing our highs and lows, I have everybody answer a question. So this year, since everything's on Zoom and to make our slides fun, we do themes each week picked by exec, and your question goes with the theme. So I think for finals week last semester, or maybe it was midterms, we did like, what's your pump up song for in the morning? And we made like a Spotify list from all the songs that everyone shared.
Yeah, Christina, I love that idea. We do chapter themes too, and I think that people get really into it, and it's always really exciting. Also, sometimes we'll pick like themes, and different exec members will have their own like interpretation of it. It can get really silly sometimes. I think one of the last ones we did was like spring. So most people are like, flowers, rain, and some of our brothers who are like, one of them is a mechanical engineering major. She did like different types of actual like springs, and I don't know. It's always really fun and it's cool, and people like get into it. We also do LFS letters. I think it's slowed down since COVID, but that's definitely something we want to pick up. We just like start like the first week off, we just nominate brothers who've been going at it with leadership, friendship, or service. So we have like the 3 letters, and then they just nominate people for the next week. And if we don't have any nominations, we just go over like credits on AP Online and see who has like received the most leadership or done the most leadership, fellowship, or service that week, and they get like highlighted a chapter. And I think it's really cool. Like sometimes like you might not even hear from a bro a lot, but you see like their name on the slides, and everyone like gives them like snaps or claps for them, and it's always really cool. It's a great way to like appreciate our brothers for engaging.
Or to make sure I didn't cut anyone off, or somebody was hopping in. Love all of those ideas. I know at Toledo we do kind of the same idea, but generally it's towards the end because our president's report is towards the end. She does a lot of our hype up, our random question of the week. What's your favorite type of? What's your go-to shoe? Which launched a like half-hour debate of the best go-to shoe. It's very intense. Sometimes those questions that some people think would be dumb, are the most exciting. What's your favorite breakfast juice? Is a popular one. I don't know why. Yeah, also I assume many of you saw him hop in, but my fellow unsec rep John has joined us. He's incredible and is here to help us out. Do you have anything, John?
Yeah, sorry I was running a bit behind this morning. I had some technical difficulties on my end, which is like the story of the Zoom age, I feel. But I'm here now. I'm really excited to hear what all you guys have to say about what you guys have been doing this semester. As Jacqueline mentioned, I'm one of the pledge trainers here at the Alpha Gamma chapter at Purdue, and I'll be one of the chapter president this fall. So I've seen a lot of the similar things that you guys have seen this semester, and I'm really interested in hearing how you guys have like worked through a lot of these things. But yeah.
Okay, first of all, regarding the chat, the only correct answer is goldfish, unless it's those Cheez-It grooves, because the Cheez-It, like the white cheddar Cheez-It grooves, are like they're incredible. Or flavor blasted goldfish.
Goldfish deserve some snaps for sure.
Exactly. So I guess one thing I'm curious about. Well, we'll do that one later because we don't want to be impartial yet. So pledge programs obviously were much different with them being online. So I'm curious how different chapters kind of navigated the whole thing of showing pledges or new members what APO is when you can't really show them because everything is virtual, or there were some hybrid events or maybe a couple smaller in-person events, but you can't show them like, oh, look at our great big incredible chapter and all of the cool things we do with COVID.
Okay, I wanted to wait to see if I wasn't going to interrupt anyone. But yeah, I can definitely see that that's been one of the hardest things as far as like recruitment and like making sure that the pledges see APO as much as they can, even though it's not at its fullest. I think for exec, what our pledge educator and our president, Caitlin, and Gwen respectively, emphasize is that, you know, exec members come to pledge meetings and kind of get our faces out there so that they can meet us and see like what the leadership of APO looks like. But something that Gwen did with the pledge program this year is, so pledges typically have to complete a certain number of interviews for exec members, other actives, and fellow pledges, but she like increased the numbers this COVID semester so that to like emphasize that pledges are meeting bros. And then the interviews aren't, I know they sound very formal, and sometimes I'll get emails, people are like, is 3 a.m. okay? Or 3 p.m. okay? I'll set up a Zoom call. I'm like, no, FaceTime is okay. Like it says interview, so I think it might be kind of daunting and intimidating, but it's really chill. Some of the questions on there are like, you know, Cheez-Its versus Goldfish, like what building would you move on campus? Recommend me a song. You know, it's like a huge list of questions you can pick from. And it's always a really great way to like meet people and kind of like break the ice and form bonds between like the actives and the pledges. I definitely think that it's hard to do and hard to keep the pledges engaged, but I think even if they just have one really cool interview with like an active who's really engaged and really into APO and like gets into like knowing them as a person, I think that has definitely helped pledges see like the potential of APO. Like I always hear from pledges like, I've never met a mean person in APO, and I'm like, that's right. We don't, there's no mean brother. But it's really, I don't know, I think the interviews really help.
Yeah, so I was a pledge last semester. I didn't actually know that Gwen had increased the pledge or the interview amount. So that's really cool. I think that was a good idea because interviews were definitely how I got to know a lot of brothers and how I made some of my first friends in APO. Also, something that we did is invite actives to the pledge meetings so that when describing like the events that usually happen at APO, some of the brothers could chip in. They could talk about their personal experiences at APO. But that all helped. I do think that like the pledge recruitment idea was or aspect was one of our main struggles, but it was kind of held together by the idea that the brothers are incredible and pledges want to stick around to get to know them.
I think our like in the fall definitely was a lot more like fumbling, like a lot of things were dropped, just trying to like make sure that we still got pledges through, like trying to navigate COVID and everything. And this semester has been like, there's been more of an emphasis on trying to like make sure those traditions are still in there. And it's also not just teaching the pledges, but like the last couple semesters of pledges, like didn't see a lot of these things, or at least like in an in-person format. So like, it's also teaching them the traditions. And I think one thing that really helped to like glue our pledge program together pretty early was we always do, it's normally like an overnighter event. I don't know if other chapters do this, but like in the first couple weeks of pledging, there's usually, they go to like a scout camp, and it's like a whole overnight thing. You do a bunch of service at the scout camp and stuff. But we had to plan it as we aren't allowed to go off campus for anything. So we planned like an all-day retreat that was both had in-person and online components. And I think just having that like long, like whole group activity, like really helped to get that, get some inside jokes going, get that bonding going like very early on. And that having that at the beginning really helps all the way through.
Yeah, for sure. I really love all of those ideas, which is interesting because our chapter actually did the opposite of OSU and lessened the interviews because they were like, oh, that's a lot of work for all the pledges. But I really like the idea of doing more because obviously they get to know more people and it kind of gets them out there. So I guess my other thing that I'm curious about, and maybe I'm a little impartial because I'm a service vice president, is how that transition to service worked for everyone. I know fellowships and leadership, well, it wasn't perfect, was a little bit easier to transition. A lot of them were, outside leaderships or hosting an event or something, or fellowships could really easily move online, even if it wasn't ideal. But a lot of the service projects that didn't transition very well, or completely disappeared. A lot of groups do like Ronald McDonald House, which you can't do when you can't go to the Ronald McDonald House, or things like that. So I'm really curious, how chapters kind of navigated the whole transition of service and everything.
Service was definitely harder. One of the things that we actually did, there was there's this one website where you can go on and do like different service things, like counting the amount of seals like on a beach for research purposes. But we had the option also to sign up for 7 Cups. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, but it's like a website where you can go and be a listener for somebody to talk to, like if they need like emotional support, and you kind of like anything like that. So a lot of people did sign up for it. I don't know how many have stuck with it, but it's better than nothing. There really isn't a ton you can do online, but that's one thing we did.
I think also like a big thing with virtual service is just making sure that you have like a variety, like you're not doing the same thing every time, and like switching it up or having multiple options available for people. I think that's been really important.
Yeah, I know that for us, we were able to do some in-person services in the fall, and then once I'm not going to say once COVID got bad again, because it's always bad, but like it started to really like increase in our area, we had to like stop and pull back, and it's just been a process of like being creative and having to rethink how you would do some in-person service events and transition that to online. But I've found that there's a lot of variety out there for online service events, and it's always fun to see how you could do things that would traditionally be all online for like, individual time. So like doing free rice in your free time, and how you can incorporate that in like a group setting and increase the brotherhood virtually, but still doing service at the same time.
Yeah, I absolutely echo what Nina just said. The hardest part of virtual service was creativity. We were very nervous about not having enough like options for service for our brothers there. But I think once we made that known between our service vice president, service vice chair, and like our late night service vice chair as well, I think we did a good job of like letting the chapter know, if you have any ideas, like let us like give that to us so we can put it on the calendar. And after that, I saw like a boom in like the different types of service opportunities that we offered. There was like a wildlife tagging one where you just go on a website and you like identify the different animals. It's like from the, I don't know what they're called, but the wildlife cameras that, like, I don't know, the Nat Geo people put up in the woods and stuff. There's a wide array. I was thinking of all of them before I started to talk, but I think we've had like a lot of options. And I think that, I don't know, it's different from in-person service, but I think that we've been able to supplement our service program enough, even though it's been pretty difficult.
I know one of the things that we've been looking at a lot in our chapter kind of is having we have a lot of asynchronous service right now where there's a lot of projects where people can hop on and do it like at any given time and just say, oh yeah, I spent an hour doing this, which has been really great for people who have incredibly busy schedules, because it's given people an easier way to get their requirements in and get all their service in, and keep doing stuff, even if they have like lab meetings that would usually collide with certain events and things like that. But we've also been trying to do a lot more incorporating synchronous stuff in as well, even if it's one of those like virtual events that can be synchronous then, because we found that like a lot of people just want to hang out with their brothers and do service. Like that's why a lot of people ended up joining APO. So offering those synchronous events that, even if it's still on a Zoom call, even if it's still like service, but not as like walking dogs and packing cans at a food pantry, it's still super valuable for people. But that's one of the things we've been noticing. I know one of the ones that's been really popular also has been the Post-it project that we have, where you just write like inspirational quotes on Post-it notes and stick them up around campus. And a while ago, I saw one of our Post-it notes trending on Reddit. And someone was like, this absolutely made my day on like the Purdue subreddit. And I'm like, okay, good. We're doing a good thing now. but that's one of the ones that I think's like been really nice because people can do it on their own time. They just stick it on the academic buildings that they happen to be going to on campus. And it's making a difference for people. I see them every day that I'm going to classes and it makes me happy.
Yeah, John, that's amazing to hear. And we actually had something similar, but it was a pledge plan one, which makes it just so much more impressive. It was like Easter eggs packed with like mini peeps and like a nice message inside, and we passed them around. And we got a message on like our OSU Crush page. It was like, shout out to the person who handed me an Easter egg and made my day. And it was like, I think our pledge educator Gwen Mack put it in our group chat, like, you know, snaps to the brothers who put this together, and it made me feel so good. I was like, okay, we're getting recognition on the school level. I don't know, it was kind of cute.
I love the post-it notes so much. It's one of my favorite projects to do. It's actually happening later today at conference. If anyone is interested, I think it's like 2:30 or 1:30. I don't know. It's later today. I do know that. But I love all of those. So many good projects going on. Everyone's doing amazing. I'm not gonna lie, I ran out of questions, but does anyone else have anything for the group? Obviously, we have a great group of people from all over the region here. If anyone has like struggles that they want, or like, hey, got any ideas, peoples? Or just like have cool things they've done that they just want to like share and brag about. Open floor, if you will.
I think another thing that we've been trying to do, so we are not allowed to go off campus at all, like I said. So we've been trying to, I think, take more advantage of our campus resources and like reach out to get more involved with our cultural centers on campus. We've had a couple of events doing service like at our LGBTQ center in person, and just trying to, I guess, further deepen further those connections that we have with our on-campus resources to start providing some in-person service again.
I think that kind of hits on an interesting question that I can think of for the group is we've learned a whole lot out of all of the changes that we've had to do in the past year. Because a lot of us have had to retool a good portion of our program to get things to fit. How do you guys see some of this carrying on once we're able to start getting back in person and things like that? Are there things that you've realized that you're like, oh, we could possibly incorporate this into like our regular programming? Or are there some things where you're like, yeah, no, I think once we're able to get back, like pretty much most of this is going to be like going by the wayside.
So Wright State is a very non-traditional school where we have like a lot of commuters and stuff. And so people are either, once they're on campus, or they're like, yeah, I'm not going to campus if I don't have to. So I think after all of this, we might incorporate like, hey, like I know you can't really make it to chapters every week, but we can hook you up with Zoom, so you don't have to be here every week for chapter.
I think that there are a few online events that we've started doing this semester that are maybe worth considering leaving in for a while, like fellowship events that are meant to be online. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever played Scribble.io, but like the online Pictionary game or Among Us or any of those things, they're like online games. They're meant to be online, and it makes sense that if like we want to do them late at night, or if we ever like want to have an event after people have started moving out, then those online options are definitely still things that were a lot of fun and worked really well online.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say absolutely the membership events, the fun stuff. That's what can like stay online. Obviously, service, you can't really be online. And what's great about it is that you can promote it in person. So like you get to know the people you're playing with in person rather than it just like all being online. It's just a totally different vibe.
I think the other thing this has really helped with is like summer events, because I feel like a lot of campuses, you have people who stay in your area, but a lot of people go back home and just kind of APO just kind of stops for 3 months and then everyone comes back. and like it's a sudden like, oh, everybody get back into it, get your requirements done, let's do it all. And it kind of helps bridge that like 3 months of awkwardness. You're like, what do we do? Because we want to keep things going, but we don't have anything to do. But like now that we've been forced to figure out how to do it online, we're in this hybrid setting. I feel like we can definitely use that going forward.
Okay, I don't really have anything to share necessarily. It's more of a question. One of the main things I was hoping to take away from this officer roundtable was, okay, so we just had our chapter executive board elections in the middle of March. And it took a really long time. It was 2 sessions, 2 whole days of mandatory events. The first one was, I think it started at 5. I was on there at like 4:15 and we didn't finish until about 11:30. And then the second one was about, I want to say like 2 hours long, which was really long. And I felt so bad for all our members who had to do this. So this year, one of our main things for bylaw review coming up this fall, we want to rework our elections. So for my main question is, I see Josh nodding, so maybe your chapter has this problem too, or I don't want to call it a problem because it's not necessarily like a bad thing, but just to make elections more efficient, what do you do in your chapters? I'm pretty sure what Alpha does is very close, if not identical, to what it is on the national level, but I just feel like either it's this, I don't know if it's the size of our chapter and how we always have several brothers running for each event because people are always so qualified. There are many leadership positions that you can build experiences to be on exec through. But yes, what do you do at your chapters? How do you streamline things? How do you make discussion more efficient and constructive? We just need a ton of tips because we plan to rework our election procedure this fall.
I feel like we could have a whole roundtable just on elections with everyone. I know over at UT, we do like a 2-fold thing. So like 1 week, it actually starts next week. We have like round 1 nominations. And so like you get initial ball rolling and it kind of lets people think like, oh, here's what I'm running for. Start thinking about like what they're going to say and everything. And then the next week is like really the thing. And it's still a pretty long meeting. It's still like 2 hours long. But we kind of run through everything else really quick and then move on to elections. And they try and like limit it. So like, I forget how long exactly we have them speak, but it depends on the position. So like upper exec, like the vice presidents and presidents have like 2 or 3 minutes to talk. And lower exec has like a minute or 2. And then there's a set amount of time for questions. Like, oh, we're going to, for 3 minutes or 4 minutes, like you can ask questions that I can answer. And it's timed. And then they kick everybody out. And for like 3 or 4 minutes, it's just like, we go back and forth and it's like plus or pro and con of each thing. Like, oh, I've worked with Kirsten, she's great, or I've worked with Kirsten, she didn't do her job, she sucks, Kirsten's amazing, by the way. But, and so that kind of rolls it up and then bring them back in and have like a preset way of voting. I know in the past they've used Google Forms or we were looking at, I forget what the name of it is, but another software where it automatically tabulated it for everybody and did like ranked choice voting. So like it automatically like, took out all the candidates for everybody. And it was like $5 for, for a year or something, really cheap, which just made voting way easier. And then of course people can trickle down, but if they're trickling down, they've already talked. And so a lot of times they're just like, oh, I already said my piece, I'm up. Which kind of streamlines the whole thing, but we're also a much smaller chapter. With all of our new pledges, we only have like 30 actives, but that's what we do.
Yeah, I think that I don't know what it is. We try to like break it down and like, okay, what is making this last so long? We have our speeches for a really short time. The president has a minute to deliver their speech, and every other exec member has 30 seconds. And that's something we definitely want to change. Like you need more time to like, build your cause or like, deliver your statement to the chapter. So, but like that's just adding more time. So we're like, okay, when can we break down time? But yeah, we plan to incorporate ranked choice voting because we think that it could be like an easier way to like determine a winner. John, you said 3 minute speech, 3 minute questions. We have time breaks on like everything, and it just ends up taking so long all the time. And we try to incorporate breaks for like lunch, and like everyone like gets on, turns their camera on and like does yoga for like 5 minutes to stretch because we've all been sitting for a while. But yeah, I don't know. Thank you for the tips so far. If anyone has more, please continue to share. You know what? I'll just drop my number. If anything pops into your head, please definitely let me know.
I know that's been an issue that like we've been talking about in our chapter as well, though. Like ours don't go on as long, but like ours still go on like pretty lengthy, and members always kind of are like, oh, it's election time. It's going to be like a 3-hour long meeting, or a 4-hour long meeting, depending on how things go. So like, I think that's a good question that a lot of groups like are thinking about, because we want to streamline it, but we also want to give people the time to like chat and like share like what their plans are for the semester, because sometimes it ends up just being really rushed, and then it's like, oh well, I don't really know what their plans were for the semester, but like I guess that's what we're voting for because it's unopposed. So like, yeah.
Gotcha. I was surprised to hear quite how long yours are. Do you elect just like e-board, or is it like also chairs? Oh, might have
I
lost
don't,
Kachi.
yeah, I don't know if her connection's maybe a little funny, but yeah, it's just e-board. It's not like the vice chairs. It's just like the main. I think we vote on 11 positions for elections. Yeah, so these were my first ones. They were really long. I was not prepared. I think part of the reason was okay, she's back. Part of the reason might have been that like we were online and people were just like kind of zoning out and not voting on time. Like they just we would have all the speeches done and we were just waiting on people to vote. But yeah, it was weird. I don't know how it took so long.
Yeah, sorry, my internet got kicked off for a bit there. You all froze. I was like typing to say you're frozen. I'm sorry, I'm not ignoring anyone, and then it went off. But yes, definitely what Priya said. We were struggling. We had like our number for quorum was like 171, and we would just inch towards that number. And I'm like, this is so painful, guys. Please vote. But it's okay. We eventually, I think that elections were definitely successful. I'm so excited and proud of the team that we elected, but I just think that we could do it in a more efficient way. And I do think that elections are always going to be a long thing. Our chapter has currently about 220 active bros. It was about 250, but I think just from graduating bros last semester and bros that dropped or left the school for a period, I think we're about 220 right now, which is like, it's a lot. And I just think like, because before elections, we were like, okay, we need to figure out a way to make this streamlined. And we exec had meetings, JRC had meetings, and we're like, everything we can do, we've done. Like nobody's trying to make elections long. We don't want that either. And they just ended up being long anyway. So yeah, it's a hurdle, but that's one of my goals for this year. Like we will find a way to make sure that our elections are efficient and streamlined.
Another thing that we have done, and I don't know if it sounds like you probably have more people usually running for each position just as a larger chapter, and like that's awesome that your people are that engaged. But when it is unopposed, we've been voting by affirmation, and that takes away some time just by like having a ballot and stuff.
Yeah, I think it is just like the number of bros we have, and like at elections we're like, there's just so many great bros, like you're all qualified. So yeah, it's great. We had last year when we did elections, I think we had like 3 or 4 positions that were unopposed, maybe like closer to 3. And so that definitely cut down time. But this year it was only 1 position that was unopposed. And when I tell you, that was like the most smiles I've seen on Zoom. Everyone was so happy because we could just go right ahead and vote by voice affirmation. That was really nice. But yeah. But no, seriously, I don't expect you all to have the answers. I just wanted to put it out there that if you had any suggestions, and I dropped my phone number, hopefully you got it before I got kicked out of Zoom, but I'm really looking forward to working with all of you in the months to come and next year. So, but yeah, I will update you all if we have any breakthroughs.
Yeah, I know one of the things that you mentioned that I like very much related to is the fact that we were also kind of having interesting quorum issues in our chapter. Like we were very close to our quorum threshold, where like we had a hybrid election this semester, so like people are allowed to go in person to a lecture hall or speak online depending on like what they were comfortable with. And like there were people in the room, but there were like 15 of us in the room, and then there were 50 people online. And we had the issue where like we saw like as elections would happen, well, we had to go through and count like which advisors were online so they don't count for quorum and all this stuff. And then you'd watch the quorum number tick down as we got a few hours in, and it's like, okay, in person, we're able to just say, you can't leave the room until we're done with this because we need you here for quorum. Online, we can't just like force the app to stay open. So we were like, please, that number cannot drop like 1 person lower or else elections ends for the night and we have to bring it up again in a week. But yeah, that's definitely a big issue with like I found with the online elections and like online mandatory events is it's so much harder to like get the involvement. And like hybrid also brings that same issue where like the people who are on your screen or the people who are online, I found are just a bit less involved than the people who are still in person, because in person it's so much easier to talk. And like during our elections, the people who are online, I think I heard like 6 or 7 statements out of like the online cohort during it, but like the in-person people were like constantly asking questions during the questioning round.
Yeah, I know we've had quorum issues before, and we've literally just started calling people, and we're like, get on the Zoom right now. I will keep calling you till you're on the Zoom, which probably borderlines on like almost hazing, but there's a fine line. There's a certain amount of calls before it becomes hazing.
Yep, no, for sure. I was definitely making little baby threats to people. I was like, if you're awake, if you're asleep, and I find out, but I was just, harmless threats. But yeah, we were like, call your friends, call your roommates, go wake them up. We need to get this going. I think that I definitely agree with what you said, John. Like when we were in person, long time ago, but I don't think that we had as many quorum issues. Maybe to get everyone in to start, but once we were all in the room, like it was like everyone was voting, but everyone's on Zoom. Most people have their cameras on, probably walked away, which is like, I always tell people like, I understand Zoom is not exactly ideal for us either. So I understand you like not really being engaged. And I'm like, we need to get this done. I was like, for the second round, it took us maybe like 25 minutes to even reach quorum and start any activities at all. And we were very adamant. We were like, seeing as long as it took us to get here, it's very important that every single person on this call keeps on voting. We were like, we can't have this happen. But the second round was way more efficient. I think people really understood and nobody wanted a repeat of the first round. But yeah, it's just APO things, just parliamentary procedure things.
Oh, the other thing we found helpful sometimes is having like an advisor, even like if you can get a section chair or even like somebody from another chapter to come in just to be there, because people tend to like speed things up because they're like, oh, we have like a guest, and you don't want, everyone like has to be on their best behavior when the guest is there. You don't want to like, be the guy who's like caused the meeting to be 6 hours when your section chair or the region chair is on or something. It's also fun to log in as the region chair and just leave your thing off so they think Brittany's there, but Brittany's not there. It freaks people out. It's kind of fun. Not that I've ever done that, Kirsten. Never. Also, I threw my number, my email in the chat for everyone. Feel free to like shoot me a text and email anytime, any issue. I might not be able to solve them all, but I will find people who do. Me and John are on NSAC. We'll start calling people. Actually, our advisor at UT, his wife is the vice president of APO. So we'll just call Brian a bunch of times and be like, Brian.
I might have to steal that idea and log in as Brittany.
I've done it on service before because people would just like pretend they're doing the service but aren't actually doing the service. And then like this Brittany person shows up and it says Region Chair. They're like, oh my gosh, oh, look at my beautiful car.
What I think is really funny is a lot of our members know Brittany's name now because of how many times Brittany Ramsey has appeared in our Zoom meetings, but like only like not that many members of our chapter have really met Brittany yet. So they're just like, I know who Brittany is. I just don't know Brittany. But yeah, no, Brittany Ramsey's name is just like a thing that we all know at this point in the chapter, which I think is the first time anyone's known our region chair this well in my whole time in APO. So like, that's really cool.
Our membership chair for a while was logging in as Brittany to use the region Zoom for the account for meetings, to the point where a bunch of the pledges thought she was Brittany. And they're like, wow, this region chair is like at everything. And she's like, no, I'm our membership chair. I'm just using Brittany's Zoom account.
Yeah, Brittany's on top of things. She attends everything.
And then she did show up to a pledge event and they're like, wait, you're Brittany?
Somewhere all over Region H, Brittany Ramsey's in like 20 events in one night.
She should get like some kind of attendance award. Attended the most region events.
We get frequent flyer for attending every region, an event each section in a year. She's done them all in one night.
Right.
Well, I'm all out of things, but if anyone else has anything, of course, we can leave it open. I'm like 95% sure that the conference is on lunch break right now, so we're not going to throw anyone off.
Yeah, we're on lunch break now. I do have a question though, because I do have to prepare everybody for elections coming up. How do you recommend getting people excited about exec positions? Because my group just doesn't seem too enthusiastic this year. And all of our exec members are seniors that are leaving. So
I know.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you go.
What I was gonna say is we had kind of the same issue where like it took a long time for us to actually like fill out our positions on eBoard this coming semester, and like we have amazing people that are stepping into our positions in the fall. It just took legitimately. I talked with I talked with on a run. I contacted every single person who ended up running for the eBoard and was like, hey, you should run for this position. I think you'd be a really good fit. And I contacted more than that. I ended up contacting like a lot of the chapters saying like, hey, you could run for this position. Like you really have it in you. So I think a lot of it, like one of the underutilized things, like because we're virtual, is like reaching out directly to people and saying, hey, you would be amazing at this. I've seen what you've done at these events that you've run. I know that you can do this. I know you have the skills and I'll be there to help support you and as a resource. So like run for it, like sign up.
I absolutely echo what John just said. Brothers really just the recognition, even if it's just a little bit, can take brothers a really long way, because they might even be thinking about it low-key, but they're like, oh, I probably won't be good at it. I probably won't have the right skills. But if you're already a leader in the org and you just be like, hey, you could be good at this position there. But I did the same thing, John, I think we were struggling to find people to run for like our fellowship, or yeah, I think it was fellowship. Surprisingly, it's like one of the most fun exec positions. And I reached out to a couple people, and that was one of the ones we ended up having like 5 or 6 people run for. And just like tell people like, hey, I think you'd be good at this. Like your energy's great. I think you'd really work well on exec. You'd be a great addition. Could like just motivate them to you know, making the first step and doing, just like, I don't know, being recognized by your bros who are also doing great things. Really great for people self-esteem within the org and how they feel your skills could contribute. I'm sure your chapter already does this, but like the chapters leading up to elections, each exec member like does like a quick little rundown of their position and what they do. And honestly, just hyping it up, like I'm the SAA, that's probably like one of the more boring positions to have. But by the way, I talk about it, like brothers probably wouldn't even guess that. Like just hype it up, fake it till you make it. Like we're all pretending to be Brittany. So I don't know. Just hype up the position, talk about what's exciting about being on exec, the cool things you get to do. You know, like working in the back, behind the scenes of our org. I don't know. Just hype it up and you know a little bit. I'm sure you're already doing that, so I feel like you might be like, yeah, I'm doing that, but I don't know. Definitely reaching out to brothers who you think would be good at the position that might already be thinking about it. And yeah, hyping up your position. Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of them. And with hyping them up, also like being like, oh, it's this important position, but also not like it's scary because they have to do it because people are like, oh, I could never be fellowship chair or be service chair. Like that's so much work and I'm, you know, not qualified. And you're like, it sounds really cool, but like a lot of times it seems scarier than it really is. And I feel like the other thing that's really underutilized is like encouraging just normal actives to encourage their brothers. Cause like, you know, it's really cool when like the service chair, the fellowship chair is like, you'd be really good as service chair, fellowship chair, whatever. You know, because that's also important in seeing leaders, but I feel like it's also really cool when your fellow actives hype you up because of course the leadership wants, you know, leaders to you know, to come up. That's, you know, they want to lead, they want good leadership, but like when your fellow actives are like, I think you'd be really good at this, you know, we've done this event together and, you know, it's cool. I think it also makes it a really big impact too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things though that like a lot of chapters have been struggling with. Like we definitely have been, and we have a lot of co-chair positions that we're going to be filling coming up here in a bit. I did the math, and we have like 20 some co-chairs and like 11-ish PT buddies. I think it's 9 PT buddies that are all the like positions under like our exec board in our chapter. So we're also going to be doing like a lot of that same like reaching out to people and trying to see like who wants to run for stuff. And if people are like afraid of time commitments and stuff, like talking with them and being like, well, I think you can do it still, like doing the, like, there's a lot of footwork I found to like filling positions sometimes, which arguably it shouldn't have to be as much footwork as it is, because like I think like at least in our chapter, I think everyone can and should run for positions because everyone I know is very capable and can do the positions, but a lot of people don't innately find themselves stepping up to that. I know I think it was Tommy Brennan at like the APO Spark we had at our extravaganza that Purdue put on, said that people come to APO for the membership, we stay or come for the service, stay for the membership, and get leadership along the way. And I know a lot of people don't get that leadership unless they have someone who coaxes them into that first step. Because like I was even that way when I first started. Like I ran for a position, lost my position as a pledge, and then was told by one of the PT buddies that we have in our chapter, you're running for pledge class VP mem, or I'm gonna find someone to floor nominate you. And I went, okay, I guess I'll run. And then ever since, that helped kind of get me to realize, you know, maybe I could run for positions and be a leader.
Yeah, I don't think it's really a logical thing in terms of people being resistant to running for leadership positions, because everybody knows that like if you care about it, you'd have time for sure, and it would probably be a good experience. It's like an emotional thing, like not feeling like you really belong, not really feeling like, you know, the chapter is, I don't know, a place where you fit in with everyone else, like, you know, doing service and like being involved in stuff. So I think the biggest solution to that is an emotional solution, which is like making friends and being supported by your fellow brothers, like whether or not they have really done like incredible things that have actually changed a chapter, just being supportive and letting them know that like their work is appreciated.
Totally agree.
Also, not overlooking pledges. I feel like a lot of pledges or new members like are thinking about running or want to run, but they need that little extra nudge to be like you're actually good. I know like half of our current exec board is people who pledged last semester, including our fellowship vice president, our finance vice president, all of our lower exec, like almost half or over half of our leadership team is pledges and or former pledges from last semester, and all really good at their jobs and really excited about it because they're new to they're fresh to the chapter. They're not jaded by losing past elections or anything, and sometimes they're your best leaders.
I can definitely say from last semester, because I pledged last semester, and when it was going for elections, I was like, I'm probably not gonna get nominated. I really didn't know where to go. And then I started getting nominated, and it's like, okay. And the one thing, like it was getting late on elections night. I was considered giving up. And then Brian, our advisor, messaged me through Zoom saying, hey, I think you'll do great on exec board. And it just was the push I personally needed to continue going, even though it was nearing midnight and I was just nearing done, but definitely really helped.
I have one last question on a kind of related note, but our chapter does have one last set of elections tomorrow for JRC and Service Vice Chair, and I'm running for JRC. And because everyone here has apparently won an officer position, do you guys have any like very general speech tips or running tips?
I think listing some like specific ideas that you have always like just like piques people's interest, and to see that you like have already been thinking about this. Like I think a lot of people say that they'll be open to doing like whatever the chapter wants, which is like like that's what you want, right? But I think giving like naming exactly like some specific ideas that you have for the chapter shows that you've really dedicated thought to the position.
Absolutely. And some advice that I always like to give people running. I know we're in the same chapter. It's okay, girl. I always say like talk about like what you enjoy in APO, like what of your experience, because I know our chapter only has 30 seconds. Of course, good luck. I know our chapter only has 30 seconds for your speech. And I remember being like, what can I say in 30 seconds? But if you just talk about like the experience you've had so far, I know you're NIB, so it's like very short, but I ran for JRC my NIB semester too, or I guess it was the end of my pledge semester. So you have a whole semester of extra experience to talk about. Just, I don't know what APO means to you. If you've had an APO spark, you can talk about that. I feel like that was something that I mentioned, and just how like you want to have a position that you can serve our brothers and our chapter with. Like, I don't know. I feel like you will do a good job. I'm wishing you all the best of luck. But I think that always talking about like, because I don't know, I feel like why people stick around APO is because it's so close to our hearts. So I feel like just like mentioning what APO means to you is always a great way to deliver a speech.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Pachi. That was great advice. And also like letting people know you're like available and there for them. Like you could be the most qualified person on the planet, but like if people can never get a hold of you or never talk to you, then like it doesn't matter how qualified you are, because they're gonna feel jaded by not being able to get a hold of you or not being able to talk to you, like that you're not there for them. And so sometimes like the best people for the position aren't even the people who are most qualified in terms of experience, but just the people who are gonna be there and be available and be helpful. Does anyone have anything else? Oh, word order. It was great talking to all of you and having this round table, the table of the round. Obviously, I threw my information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure John has the same idea. We're always here for you. Yeah.
Yeah, this was really amazing. It was really nice just round tabling and chatting with you guys. This is really nice, and I really hope that in the future we can hopefully meet in person and definitely collaborate between our chapters. But this is really cute. Thanks, guys.
Arizona sectionals next year in Toledo.
Yeah.
All the places.
Thank you guys. Thank you for all the tips. And it was really nice to talk to you guys and hear about all of your chapters.
And good luck. We're all
Good luck.
rooting.
Look.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your semester.
Yeah, thank you.